Hello everyone and welcome to the second episode in my Introduction to Node.js tutorial series. In this video, we are going to be talking about what's called NPM and modules. Now, NPM stands for the Node Package Manager, and basically, Node by itself is fairly weak. It can't do much. It's basically just running JavaScript without a website. But when you add in what are called Node packages, which are either built into the standard library of Node, or more often than not, are third-party packages, they essentially supercharge Node to give them whatever abilities or give it whatever abilities you need it to. For example, there are different modules, and they're called modules, not packages generally. There are different modules that let you make web servers with Node. Some of them let you make chatbots like on Discord or on Slack if you use either of those platforms. Some of them let you do web scraping. There's basically a Node package for almost anything under the sun that you can think of that you might want a backend server to be able to do, or just backend code, server code in general. Node can do a lot of it, including image processing. I've made like a desktop application using a Node module called Electron, and then also using like OpenCV. Those may not sound familiar, but basically just using pure JavaScript and some HTML and CSS, you can make a desktop application that edits images and can change their brightness and all that stuff. So Node and NPM is quite Node is quite a powerful kind of tool that you can use to create just about anything, and that's why it's very widely used in today's backend and more often full stack development environments. A lot of full stack developers use Node just because of its versatility. Enough of my tangent. I'm going to quickly first go over installing the WSL VSCode extension, and this is only for if you are on Windows. If you are not, skip to the section where or skip to the section after I'm finished with this, and then we'll get started from there. So if you are on Windows, in order to install WSL VSCode extension, I am assuming you have already installed WSL, which we covered in the previous video. WSL stands for Windows Subsystem for Linux, and all it does is it gives us a Linux terminal on Windows. So to actually install the correct extension, you just come here and click this icon with the 3 squares and the one jutting out there, and you can search WSL, and you should be able to get this extension here that says Remote WSL, and then you just hit this green button. So for example, there's the green button there, and you click it there, and once you have that finished, now you have access to your WSL terminal inside VS Code itself, basically. So the way you can actually turn it on is you hit Control-Shift-P to pull up your command palette. Otherwise, you can hit View and then Command Palette, and just say reopen folder in WSL. And once you do that, I'm actually not sure. Let me open the README. And then now you can say reopen folder in WSL, and if clicking that will basically reopen the same folder, and then you're back in the same code here, and it doesn't look like much has changed, but actually now if you hit View and you hit Terminal, it will actually pull up your VS Code terminal instead of your PowerShell or Windows CMD prompt. And as you can see here, we are now in the Linux terminal because commands like ls are working, clear is working, cd is working, and for example, so that's all working now, and so that's how you basically get WSL working in VS Code. So now that we're finished with that, to actually be able to run commands with NPM, which is the package manager, we need to have our terminal open. So if you have just skipped here from either Mac or Linux, hit the View and then click on Terminal, and it should pull up a terminal on the bottom of your screen, and the commands will be pretty much the same for anyone running Windows, Mac, or Linux. So assuming you have properly installed Node.js, if you type in npm-v, it should give you a version just similarly to how you typed node-v in the previous episode. NPM comes along with it, and you can basically install things with that. Now, when you might be wondering, what is NPM? And NPM is what's called the Node Package Manager, and it's basically put here It is an online repository for publishing open source Node.js projects. Now, what that means is a lot of people will post code online to basically allow you to use Node.js to create advanced functionality. Now, people will actually put their code online and host it on NPM. So you have to come here to npmjs.com, and if you come to this website, this is where people can post their code for you to easily download using NPM. So basically, again, it is kind of like GitHub if you're familiar. It lets you or your organization kind of host your project code so that people can easily download it. And as a user, NPM basically means a tool that allows you to easily download packages for use with Node. So once you basically understand the basics of what NPM is, you can initialize an NPM project by going into the correct folder. So make sure to CD into your correct folder using, just navigating into there. And then you can type in npm init to initialize a npm project. And it'll basically, if you just hit enter a bunch of times, you can just autofill this with the default values, and that should be fine for the most part. And then once you have that and you reload, you'll notice you now have what's called a package.json file. And this is what signifies that you now have initialized a new NPM project. And it's as simple as that. Now you have initialized a new NPM project. So there are two different kinds of modules. There's the built-in modules and third-party modules, and they all give you different functionalities adding into Node and NPM in general. So this is a quick list of the built-in modules. There's notable ones like FS, which allows you to handle the file system, aka using Node, you can actually read and write files to your system. You can use HTTP and HTTPS to create web servers built in. You can use OS to kind of manipulate the operating system. You might even be able to run commands using Node. So really there is kind of a universal, or not a universal, but a pretty large kind of collection of basic things that you can do using Node and its built-in packages. So to actually start writing Node code, you can go ahead and create a new file called index.js, and this is where we can write our Node like code without having to just type in Node and start writing in here. We can actually kind of write it in a file, that way we can reuse it over and over. So to start off, I'm just going to do a quick console.log with hello world. And now, if I type in ls, you'll notice we have the package.json and then we have the index.js. And in order to actually run this, all I have to do is node space index.js. And when I hit enter there, it'll run hello world, because that's what we have told Node to do. So the way we can actually use what are called these internal or these modules is we can create a variable, a constant variable, for example, and call it fs. And then you set it equal to, and you use a function called require. Now, when you use require in Node.js, basically it's telling the code to find that module and basically to import it into your project. So now we have fs, which is allowing us to access the file system. And we can actually use this by going fs dot, for example, write file sync will let us create a file, like maybe test.txt, which is a text file, and we can say hello text. And if I save and run this by going node index.js, if I reload right here, notice now we have a text.txt file with hello text inside. So that is how we can basically access a simple built-in module. Now, when it comes to third-party modules, there are many different kinds, and you can actually explore here on the npm.js website for a bunch of different modules. I just pulled up a quick list of some of the most popular ones. For example, Express.js allows you to easily create web servers that are very versatile and can do many things. In addition, there are other packages like Async.js, which creates better asynchronous experience. Browserify lets you basically turn a lot of Node code and embed it into a website, package it basically. There are like Socket.io, lets you work with WebSockets to create video games or real-time applications. Basically, anything you can think of pretty much will be found somewhere as a Node package, most likely. So yeah, in order to use these kind of packages, let's say we wanted to use Express, which is the number one up here. All we have to do is type in npm space install space Express. And just by typing that, it'll kind of run its little installation process. And if it's all good, it will say added 50 packages, for example. But if it says added packages, That's how you know that it was installed correctly. And if we open up our package.json, now we see under the dependency section, we are now dependent on Express. And that's basically telling Node that we need this this module for Node. And now we can actually import it, const express equals require express. And by saving that, and if I run node index.js, notice nothing changes except it's not throwing an error. For example, let's say const error equals require a random kind of thing. And if I run node here, it will actually give us an error and say this is not correct because there is no package named this. But since this require express did not throw us an error, we know that our node project knows that express exists and is ready to be used in our code. So basically importing third-party code is as simple as this. You just type in npm install and then the name of the code, and you can import it just like that in your code, which is pretty nice. So now this was just pretty much a cursory or a basic surface level overview of what Node is and what npm and modules is. In the next episode, we're actually going to go ahead and start working with some of those basic modules to add some functionality into Node.js. So if you want to see this series as it unfolds, I recommend you check out the playlist, which is linked in the description, where I'm uploading daily. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notifications whenever I post new videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.